Hi, dear friends. Welcome in our live stream here on YouTube, Facebook. We are going to talk again about Chinese medicine and health, Taoist medicine and health, taijiquan health, maybe all kind of practice and stuff like this. We have a few items pre-selected, but if you have, when you come across the stream and you are not our friend yet, you can join us by becoming a friend here on Facebook or YouTube. Follow our program. You can also join us at Patreon as a sponsor for our program, from which also these live streams are being paid. And you can also come to follow classes if you think that's what we are talking about is very interesting. We have a few people here also in the Zoom. Some of them are still on the way. They were just in a Nedan class, which was a little bit heavy, serious class, through which maybe they need a little bit more time to get ready for this class. But we already start with our session right now, just not to make sure that the session becomes too late. I hope that you're going to have a lot of fun with it. If you have any questions, make sure you ask them so that we can take it into account. We had a first question. I don't know, Claudia, do you have a question or are you actually something?
Yes,
What is your
about
question?
food and sleepiness.
Okay, let me hear what is the question.
Well, I have two kinds of food which I think I get sleepy from,
Mhm.
very sleepy, and then I lose my focus on my exercises because of sleeping out
Yeah,
without
yeah,
no reason.
yeah. The question is about what how comes that some foods basically make you sleepy and other foods make you not sleepy, right? That's basically a question.
Yeah.
And there are a few factors in why some foods make you sleepy and some not. One of them is that food maybe is dampy or is very hot inside your system and produces damp inside your system, so that when you're eating, like for instance, when you eat fried food or something like this, or spicy food, your body produces dampness in a speed that your body cannot clean up. When you already have dampness in your body, also your body has more difficulty in has more difficulty in sorry, there was a measure coming, like you want to join the Zoom that I'm actually having here. That was very funny. I said myself message. Um, but uh, so when you're eating, all kind of things happen in your body, and it depends a little bit on the way how your kidneys function, how your spleen, pancreas function, and also how your stomach functions. And this is your direct report, basically, as a reaction on your food. When you eat, when you have particular kind of pathogenic or pathological condition in your body, the chances that you're going to eat something that is going to make you tired is way bigger than when your body is all fit and clean and stuff like this. But there are particular kind of foods that actually enhance these things. Like for instance, when you eat avocado, avocado is a very dampy kind of food. Of course, there's a lot of protein in there, but the protein is generally very dampy, right? Whether you eat it in the form of meat or candy or avocado doesn't really matter. Um, it's the same like when you have particular kind of weather, you feel oppressed and you feel like you're getting sleepy, or when it's dark, yes, when it's a crisp night, you can really enjoy the feeling of the night. But at the moment when the night is uh, like a mussel-like or wet-like or something like this, you really feel that the rain is pressing on you and it's making you lose your consciousness, especially when your body is already a bit dampy. Because your body resonates continuously with the things that it eats and that it comes in touch with. One of the topics that we were going to have to talk about today, what I was planning, is to talk a little bit about the role of Chinese medicine classics in Chinese medicine studies and also in Taijiquan studies. There's no way how you can study Chinese medicine without reading the classics and also have an explanation about what it actually means, what it says. So this is a combination of factors that you need, and that is the tradition of Chinese medicine. There's several steps when you study Chinese medicine. First, you will learn, of course, your basic techniques, and then there's your initiation in the Zhongyi Pai, and there's different kind of Zhongyi Pais, which basically helps you to connect with the gods of Chinese medicine. That is an important step because it helps you to become more aware of the natural order of things. And then the other one is, of course, reading the classics. Every school has the personal message of the teacher, has the message of the school as a whole, and has also the the content of the classics. And of course, then in the last instance, also nature itself has something to say, right? The idea is that there is order in nature, and the whole idea of both Taoism, Confucianism, Buddhism, and all these kind of isms from China, they are accepting the fact that there is a particular kind of order. Uh, in Confucianism, the idea is that humans create order. Yeah, because humans create order, there's a particular kind of hierarchy you have to follow, and by following the rites and so on and so on, this order helps to smoothen society. It's like our traffic rules and the etiquette while eating, the way how you learn how to behave to your parents, to policemen, teachers, and so on and so on. So all the niceties that make interaction between people in society better. And there is this social engineering that is also going on in Confucianism to a degree in the form of what the buildings look like, who can build one floor in the house, who can build two floors in the house, who can build three floors in the house, and so on. But also, like, what kind of music can you listen to because of the rank that you have in society? So, am I not recording? Is it not visible? Not visible, because here it says it is recording.
Okay, it's not visible.
No? Maybe you have to refresh your screen for a moment, because it says here that I'm recording, I'm live. Are you sure?
Yeah, Facebook, not on Zoom.
Oh, no, it's not visible on Zoom. You cannot see it on Zoom. You can only see it on Facebook or on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yes? So it is not, because there's no Zoom option. Maybe if I take a more expensive membership, it's possible. Hi, Chris. Enjoy your meal. So where was I again with my story? Ah, I was talking about these classics and so on. So the different kind of levels that you have to, and we talked about the natural order of things. So Confucianism says, like, people make a particular kind of order to human society, and these kind of things. These are there for the niceties of our society, like we have in our own society. This is what I was talking about. Daoists, on the other hand, they are assuming that there is an order in nature, which actually is more important than the order that people can make. Because when people make order on things, that might actually also lead to conflicts between people because it is unnatural. So there might be particular kind of how do you say this, um, uh, problems can become visible between people as a result of the fact that people do not agree about the general rules of behavior that people should follow. That you see this in our modern mixed societies, where people from different backgrounds, they live together and they all come from different uh, way of how to organize their society, and therefore also having different kinds of way of how to solve all kind of problems. There is this particular kind of authority in society A or society B. And in our Chinese medicine program, Taoist medicine program, one of our scientific sub or main studies coming from sociology and anthropology is the study of transculturalism, namely how do you cross from between different cultural sciences, and how do you learn from these kind of things. And of course, when we talk about the notion of what we talked about in the beginning, food making you tired, then at that moment, that food that makes you tired has to be interpreted. So Taoist medicine, Chinese medicine, they have this particular kind of language, and you have to learn how that actually works. And as a result of that, you learn a lot about nature, because you never learn only about what your body is doing during eating, yeah, but you also have to understand, like, this is what also happens. And then you learn from the fact that you recognize, oh, this is actually dampy, that you shouldn't eat that, so you try to avoid it because that is your reaction. So it means that you can make a list of ingredients that you say, like, okay, I better not eat these parts because then I become dampy. But under these and these conditions, I might actually need them, because you know the quality of that food. The whole point of medicine is knowing which food you need to eat at what moment, right? So there's no such thing as an ingredient which is per definition bad in Chinese medicine, but it is the circumstances where you eat them where they actually become important. And so if you go to the supermarket, you buy the cheapest beans in a tin, it's just as good as when you go to the bio shop and you buy a bag of uh, dried, probably freeze dried or whatever kind of beans that you have to put a lot of energy in it to be able to open it, so that you have to start preparing for your food already 2 3 days before you can eat them. The beans themselves, they are dampy. So you know that when you eat them, they're going to give you a very full feeling. That's the point of beans. The only thing is that, of course, when you eat them from a tin, you know beforehand there's conservatives in there, and there's probably sugar in there, salt, and so on to make them last for a long time. But you have to understand that if you use conservatives, the benefit from conservatives is that you're going to look young for a very long time because you balm yourself with conservatives, because the conservatives is part of your food that you're eating. So that is very good. That's why in Western countries people stay young longer time because we eat a lot of conservatives, right? In many cultures where people have natural lifestyle, they don't have these kind of ingredients. But as a result, that life is not always easy, and as a result, that they also sometimes become how do you say, not too old in reality. There's a few places, of course, where people become naturally very old. Life is relatively easy, apparently. And they have a lot of ingredients, and the way how it works on their body is very good. And also, their body structure is very good. They have long telomeres in their genes, as a result of which they will have less cellular decay. Unfortunately, besides taking precautions against aging through your lifestyle, you cannot do very much about it. But one of the things you can do is pay attention to what food does to you, which food gives you a good effect, which foods give you a bad effect, but also to understand what is a good effect, what is a bad effect. Uh, um, Claudia, you've done the food module also, right? We have a module for people to study about how food works according to Chinese medicine. It's also the foundation for the study of Chinese herbs and so on, and to become a counselor in food science, food medicine. So that might actually be something for you if you watch this and you think like that's interesting. But the idea is that you learn a proper language to understand what you are going through, and then as a result that learn to classify things and to understand when something is useful, when something is not useful. Like some things that are good for you in the winter, they are definitely not good for you in the summer. Like you see in modern supermarkets, you see all kind of foods the whole year through. That can never be good, right? It's always better to just eat the foods from the season, and it means that some times of the year the food is just not that much, right? Because in the winter there's a lot of things not growing. That means that you can only have things that you prepared, and these are usually very protein-rich foods. That brings me to the next question, because Marina just came in and she had a question about bamboo, right? She was talking about bamboo shoots that she has growing in her garden, and she asked me something about it. Does this answer your question a bit, Claudia, like this? It's a little bit extensive, but I think actually this is quite a nice answer. So it is just the fact that that happens is a learning stage, and you have to uh, just take the consequence of how it works. So it means that you have to be very strict in your discipline, saying like, okay, this is the effect, so it's not good, don't eat it. And you have to be strict with it, even though it's convenient, right? Like um, my kids, they like fries, French fries, right, or regular fries. And so they ask me every week, like, can we go there? Can we go there? We have some fries or something like this. And I don't like to go there, first of all, because it takes a lot of money. It's not very good quality. But that means also that once every now and then, when I think the weather is right, I make these things for them so that they can eat it and they can still enjoy it. And then maybe gradually they pick up on the fact that we always eat that with a particular kind of weather when they have that kind of benefit. Yes. Okay, so then let's go to the next subject. It was the um, bamboo shoes. The thing is, Marina asked, like, I have bamboo shoots growing in the garden. That's now this time. She has like large bamboo in her garden. Um, what do I do to eat them? First of all, um, when you have bamboo in your garden, you can eat them. Some kinds are better to eat than other ones. The one with the very thick stems, these are best to eat. But it means that when it comes up and it is still, the tops are still soft, you have to cut them off directly on the level of the ground. So that you only take the white peak where it's just coming above ground. So that is the part. Usually when you have the big stems longer than like 10 centimeters, I wouldn't do it because then they start becoming green. The green part is digestible, unless when you're a panda, but very few people actually are really pandas, right? But this sprout at that moment you can eat. Also, when you have the smaller bamboo, the sprouts you can still eat, but you need much more for a meal. So that's the first one thing. And at the moment when you have them, you have to take off the outer peel because that one is also undigestible. So you have to only the soft white part from the inside of the bamboo. Then you have to cut it into small pieces and you have to cook them, or you have to cook them as a whole so that they become more soft. You know that if you buy bamboo shoots, this is actually for these tops. They're sliced in small pieces so that they're easy to cook, and then they are also usually sugared or honeyed or something like this, or they are salted anyway, and they're being kept in the water because otherwise they quickly oxidate and they go rotten. So at the moment when you do that and you have that, you have cooked them, you made them soft, and then at that moment you can fry them. And at the moment when you fry them, you can add all kind of herbs to it, like coriander, hot peppers, red peppers pieces, fresh ones, or paprika, or tomato, all these kind of things. Tauge, also very delicious to go with it, or general baking sprouts you can add to it, so that you can mix it with other things. Very few people they like to eat most of it like that, but yeah, actually, this is a really very delicious part of eating. It is like any other sprouts and grasses from sprouts from grasses. It is cooling for your body, like what do you call this thing? Asparagus. That's also very good for your kidneys, and bamboo also very good for your kidneys because it is quite watery on the inside when it is still a sprout, and also, of course, it is a baby bamboo, right, that you're eating. And that baby, for our biology, eating babies is very good, like eggs, fruits, seeds, all these kind of things. Fetal mass, so to say. And at the moment when the sprout comes up, it is just giving birth. So we eat it directly from the womb of the earth. And this is basically how Chinese medicine sees this is the best moment to eat it. Then at the moment when you have cut it and you fried it after cooking, then just enjoy a nice meal with it. So this is what you can do with it, Marina. Is that to answer your question a little bit? Marina is off. Oh, what? What?
I had wet.
I cannot hear you, Marina. You have a wet microphone. What do you say?
My finger was wet, so I couldn't unmute myself.
Okay. Her finger was wet, so she couldn't unmute it. Yeah, that's a little bit of difficulty with all these phones and computers. With wet fingers, all these things don't work. Yes, that's true. Yeah. Water is great. It's both connecting us with nature and it's also isolating us from our machinery. So that's nice. What do you want to say, Claudia? You're laughing. Did I say something funny? Okay, well, that's good. Saying something funny sometimes is good. Chris, do you have any questions?
Well, just nothing specific. I'd just like to, well, it's quite a big topic, know a little more about the different schools of Chinese sort of Taoist magic.
Taoist magic.
That's a big subject, but that's really cool.
It's a very big subject, yeah, but it's nice because Taoist magic actually is part of Taoist medicine, right? It's part of Taoist ritual services. And in Taoism itself, you have already different kind of schools, but it's not so much about different kind of schools. I think mostly it is about the different kind of techniques that are like almost like standards throughout these things. Taoist magic in itself is not that complicated, but there are particular kind of worldviews that are different between different Taoist schools. Like Chongsun and Zhengyi, they have a different kind of idea. Wudang, they have different kind of idea, and there's all kind of other sects that have different kind of ideas. And they have a particular kind of way of how they approach through rituals the spiritual realm, the gods, the spirits, and so on. And that is then being transported into a particular kind of, say, fu, magical writing and stuff like this. You even see that in Reiki, which is a Christian sect, right? They implement fu writing in there as part of Taoist witchcraft that they integrated with their brand of Christianity. And they connected also with what in China is called the Ling Chi practice, right? What we do with Ling body practice, that is actually part of what also belongs to a particular Taoist magic school in that sense, occult studies. And at the moment, when you learn these kind of things, you learn to use that actually within the schools like this, Taoist schools, for things like healing or community building or marriage or death or your own spiritual advancement into the world of mortals and mortals and gods and stuff like this, demons, to go into hell to liberate maybe a family member or somebody who comes as a customer to you, who lost a family member, who had a very hard life and it needs to be delivered from hell because it went there for the wrong reason. Of course, Chinese culture, everybody goes to hell, so no problem. There's just a standard thing for most of the religion. Only when you become an immortal you can escape that. But it could also be that somebody is already locked into hell during life, and their body is still alive, but their spirit's already downstairs in Fengdu. And then, as a result, that somebody needs to go there, and that means that you have to be initiated in the cult of Tai, which is the main traveler to the underworld, so you have the powers to do so, right? If you are like I'm initiated in both Tai cult and in Xiongmu cult. Xiongmu cult goes upwards to these higher spiritual realms, and the Tai cult they go downward. And as a result of that, you go to the underworld and you do your work there. And that is very interesting because when you are busy with investigating what kind of disease somebody has, like for instance, you're doing acupuncture and you're doing massage or something like this, um, information comes from all kind of directions. So sometimes people's dreams, they give you directions and so on. But different schools deal with these kind of things in different ways, and some are more strict and some are less strict. Some focus very much only on this kind of magical rituals or on writing fu or singing particular kind of mantras or uh, doing particular kind of prayers or praying to a particular god, or a particular other god or a particular group of gods. Or they have a particular order in how to move from one layer in the heavens to the other layers. Some have like 9 layers, some 6, some 2, some 3, some 36, some 48. Depends a little bit. Some integrate the Buddhas in their pantheon. Some integrate Christian divinities in their pantheon. So this is mostly the difference. Like there's quite famous is this American. She's a half Chinese, I think, or maybe a whole Chinese lawyer. She wrote a few interesting historical things. But if you look at her magical work, you can really see that the magical work that she does is very much based on Hong Kong or Singapore culture. I'm not exactly sure which part, which has a lot of Western elements, a lot of focused on Kuan Yin. And even though she calls it Taoist, because of the focus on Kuan Yin, already like, okay, so that already moved away pretty far from the Taoist roots that were there, because Kuan Yin is, although it is part of Taoism, it is not a major part. It's certainly not for rituals, but it depends also on what they want to do with it. If you look at Tibetan Tantrism, there's the Tibetan Vajrapana Buddhism, Vajrayana Buddhism. Make a mistake, and somebody's going to hit me on the head for that. But if you look at that kind of Buddhism, also is a particular kind of magical work because you want to affect change in the world. The myths of Tibetan Buddhism about Avalokitesvara, Chanrezig in Tibetan, about his sitting for many kalpas and many worlds to meditate, to relieve reality, all the people from suffering. And then after many kalpas, he's opening his eyes and nothing changed. The world is just as terrible as it is, one of the things that, for instance, Zen is being exploited. But in Tibetan Buddhism, that at that moment he becomes desperate and he explodes, and pieces of him go everywhere, and then he becomes like the great black one, the Mahakala. And Mahakala cuts the ego from people to break their bondage in their suffering and their attachments to the world. But if you are initiated in that, then that is part of your magic. Yeah? So that belief system is part of your magic. So the different belief systems in Taoism also, like the ones that I was trained in, they are not the same like all the other ones. So every school is different in their belief system. So that means also that the application of the different magical things, even though they might superficially look the same like anywhere else, they are going to be worked out differently in different schools. So different schools is not so much the fact that there are different schools, because they're not that different from each other, but the way how they apply their magic is very different per school, because the order is different. Now we talked about before about the classics, and you see also that all the classics in Chinese medicine, in Taoism, in Confucianism, in martial arts, they're all about understanding the natural order of things, or the social order of things. And because of understanding this order, you can apply things in the normal way, the slow way, and that is by doing things the way how they're supposed to be done, or you can try to skip the normal way and try to do it in a magical way. And that means also that there's going to be an effect. Um, the reason why in Taoism they focus their magic on the gods and doing good for society is because they sacrifice themselves to be able to do these rituals for society, not for themselves, not for selfish reasons. Because the moment when they do it for selfish reasons, they want something for themselves, like revenge on people who hurt them or something like this. And at that moment, there's always this feedback of magic, which eventually can destroy your whole life. Even if you build up your trust relationship with the divinities that you're working with in your magical work, and then at that moment, the different, how do you say, the different divinities, they rely on you to do particular kind of things. So it's not just a one-way street, right? So you create a communication way with nature, whether the gods are real or not real, just part of your imagination. It doesn't matter. You create push buttons, or you have real magical powers or anything like that. That's just, you can see that for whatever you want it to be. But at the moment when you build that relationship, goes into two ways. So if something goes wrong, for instance, you do a magical service for somebody and then somebody cheats on you, then the gods also feel cheated. And the one that can be punished easily is basically you as a ritualist, right? So you build this kind of interrelationships, and so it means that you have to be very careful what you do. That's why many Taoist occultists, they're not really open about it, because they know that if they are going to be famous for it, then at that moment their life might basically become very troubled, and so they're very uncomfortable about it. That's why in Taoism, people usually they do that within a particular kind of Taoist community for the community, for the community at large, instead of doing it for themselves. Because selfishness is seen in Taoist magic anyway as being a very negative thing. And although a lot of people have selfish wants, right? But the point is not to have that selfish wants. And you also, like you should also see it in Japan in the different classics from samurai and ronin, like I just forget the name for a moment. But then you see that in all these cases, it's all about trying to be selfless in your actions, so that you are not really part of your actions as a result of that. And even in the oldest Chinese classics, they say when you are part of a government, you have to be able to say things without being afraid to be killed by your king, right? For the simple reason that you are in that government for governance, right? For proper governance, you have to make sure that society works in the right way and that the people benefit from that. and it is not about the empowerment of the individuals, but in the increase of the quality of the whole country. And in that sense, you can see that Taoist ritual is also perceived in most schools to be like that. But I know a few schools also very famous on the internet nowadays. They really have these kind of very selfish and revenge kind of things because they think the whole world is just negative and trying to get at them. So they have this very strong warrior attack fear kind of motivation, but that is also how you isolate people from society at large. And so every time when you use anger to somebody, that's already black magic, right? In that sense. So when you are pushing somebody into a negative feeling by trolling or by all the kind of weird things that people do or intimidating people, and then already that is a form of magic. And the same way when you smile to somebody, you give somebody friendliness. And at that moment also is already magic that we nowadays call white magic, right? So magic starts in all kind of ways because it reverberates further and further, and as a result of that, some things happen. And I give you a very nice story because I know this practice, of course, already for a long time. When I was living in Shanghai, or in China in general, people don't really talk that much with each other. And they're not part of the family, so they don't really talk to each other. Nowadays, it's getting a little bit better, but in general, it's not. With young people, it's better. But then my wife and I, we were living before we got married already. We were living in an apartment complex somewhere like, you know, 13, 14, 15 floor, I don't remember. And we had every time go with an elevator, with like a very tiny elevator, and go like, really shaking, very bad quality. Sometimes the light didn't work. Sometimes just stop somewhere for a minute and then it would go further again. Um, so everybody who go with this elevator was always a little bit nervous, like when is it going to stop, right? So I always make jokes to everybody who's there, or ask people at a certain point, like how are they doing and how's their family doing? Because at a certain point, you know everybody in the building, even though there's few, maybe 1,000 people living in a building like that. And at a certain point, my wife asked me, "Why do you always say hi to everybody? People don't know you; they're not interested." But a month later, 2 months later, she started noticing that people started saying hi to me and they started asking about me and my work and stuff like this and how I was doing. And you can see that by being friendly to people, you create a very slow process of openness with people. You know, that's a magical thing that you are performing at that moment. But that's a very slow magical thing. And if you force yourself to have negative thoughts about people and you try to think negative judgment about people every day uh, in the same building, then everybody's going to dislike you and they're going to make you feel you're not welcome in the building, right? And so that is also magic, but it's more like a black kind of magic, and you can use that, you can channel it, and you can create chaos in the building, right? And that chaos eventually can uh, damage the electronics of the building or the mechanism of the building because of faster decay rate. That is the idea, because the building is part of the emotional structure of all the people who live in there, right? Because people live close to each other, they radiate continuously feelings to each other, even though they don't know it. And so everybody's intertwined in that sense. And they don't know each other, but they're still part of each other's brain. Like when you're in the bus, you know, you're part of each other's feelings and thoughts in the bus. And when you have positive feelings, also in the same way. So people started at a certain point uh, putting flowers in front of their house and stuff like that. So they started cleaning up their halls, even though it looked bad, uh, because of it was run down. They tried to make it look better, right? So because the feeling was better, they felt more motivated like that, and as a result of that, they feel more happier in their house. So this is basically how good and bad magic, or negative, black and white magic, how that works, right? In everyday life. So if you do one ritual, your magic is not going to work, not going to do anything for you. But at the moment when you do a ritual every day, it will work for you. Yeah? And that can be brushing your teeth. You're not getting good teeth from one time brushing. You get good teeth from brushing every day. And so magic is just work, like everything else. It's just work. But you have to build on something. It's very gradual and it takes a lot of time. That is also why people who are good at magic, they like to become a professional ritualist in the service of others. But the problem is that to make it good, you have to do it from your heart. So you can't put a price on hard work. So it has to be donated. That's why in Taoism you're not supposed to pay a Taoist teacher. I should not say that because of course I'm a Taoist teacher myself. But you're not supposed to pay a Taoist teacher. You're supposed to donate them, right? So when people come to me as a client, then I have a price that I ask them because that's the habit. People feel uncomfortable being donated, having to donate for a treatment. You get strange things like, oh yeah, okay, donation, okay, give you €5. No, of course, then you can't pay your rent at the end of the month because that is not possible to live with it. Because people are also opportunistic sometimes. Yeah, but technically, if you're a great master, then the donations will go up and more people will give you donations. That is the idea because people resonate with you when you get better. Yes. And yeah, so it depends. When I ever grow to become a big master, I get a lot of donations. So then I can live with the donation system. Now I use Patreon, and there's also a donation system. People basically pay a donation, but it's fixed. What is the price of the donation? Because it's for non-profits. So that actually works. Yes. So you guys, when you're studying, you're actually paying me donations. That's also why I'm busy trying to set up a foundation because it makes it easier to live from donations when you have a foundation. Because the government can give you donations too. Many countries. Yes? As a scientist though, you live from subsidized. So then you can apply for subsidized. That's different. But mentality is more or less the same. Because you're researching, you're dedicating yourself to your research, and you try to achieve particular kind of things. And it goes a little bit in the opposite direction. So a magician has a particular kind of knowledge system that they use to achieve something, like a mechanic, right? While a scientist, they try to investigate the nature of things. That is also why for a scientist, it's never good to be committed to a company because a scientist who is committed to a company has to only find facts that are useful for the company. If he finds facts that are not useful for the companies, they're being thrown out of the door. Unless when they can make money with it. Yes. Does that answer your question a little bit, Chris?
Yeah, that's given me a lot more information. That's interesting. Yeah.
Magic is very interesting. In fact, the whole thing of Qigong, also Chinese medicine, for many Western scientists is seen as magic. That is also why it's interesting to study it, because it uses many of the same premises as Chinese medicine in general does. Yes. But for that also, you need to read the classics because the classics actually explain what to do. That's really very fun. In general, the different magical techniques, they are called the Tao Shu, the Taoist practices, basically. Skills, Taoist skills. Yes. So there are a lot of things. But a lot of people who practice these things have nothing to do with Taoism. Just try to make a buck. So always have to be a little bit careful. But the I Ching studies also is part of studying magic. So the course that you're doing, you're learning about yin yang, wu xing, and as a result of that, you come to understand a lot of details about how the natural order of things is according to Taoism and Confucianism, all kind of other schools. So at the moment when you perform a ritual, you apply that in your ritual, and as a result of that, your magic becomes more efficient. So basically, at the moment when you practice magic, you tune into a particular kind of existing belief system. And ironically, when you're a Buddhist, you want to become a Buddha, you do exactly the same. You turn into a particular kind of Buddha that already exists because there's already many people who went there before you. So you do not become your own Buddha, you become the Buddha from the school that you focus on. When you contribute to the existence of that Buddha, you become a part of it. You let go of your ego and your mind, self, sense of self. You just dissolve in the general Buddha nature. Yes? So in the end, it's all magic. All the spiritual things, and they're all magic in some way. Not all magic is spiritual though. Like, for instance, when you want to do feng shui for getting wealthy or getting rich, right? This is also part of magic. And you hang all kind of things in your room, or you do particular kind of spells. But in reality, you're just doing black magic. Most of feng shui that you see all these books, about how to achieve this, how to achieve that. It's just black magic. It's cheating on nature. How to build a grave and put your dying grandmother or grandfather there, so that 5 or 6 generations later, one of your family members can become emperor of the country, something like this. That is black magic. But that is most pure feng shui. Yes. Astrology, same. Because when you do astrology, you can say, okay, I take a determinist point of view where the astrologer tells me what is my character and what I'm stuck with. But that's nice. But at the moment, when the astrologer tells you this is the character that you're born with, that means that you also know your weak spots, so you know how to change your character so that that part doesn't affect you anymore. So somebody who listens really very good to their astrologer becomes somebody different than it says in the horoscope, and as a result of that, magic can be white magic or black magic depending on what you change into. Yes. When you go to the doctor, the doctor does something to you, and then you get better. That's magic. Because you don't understand the science. It's just magic. They give you a pill and then you feel better. You go to the gym, you exercise, you get drugs into your head, and then as a result that you think you feel better, that's black magic. Because when you think about it, like, okay, getting addicted to stress to be able to feel good, that can never be good. So there has to be a payback someday. Yes? That's the natural order of things. All right. Well, I hope it was very nice for everybody. If so far you have questions, then just add them to them later. You can join, of course, our channel. If you're not yet a friend of the channel yet, you can watch it later. You can help me by sharing the movie when it is ready to your friends and try to see if they would also like to see this. There's a particular topic. If you are interested in the dark arts for art reasons or anything like that, you definitely want to listen to that too. I know a few people I'm going to send this to that I know that they want to spread it among their friends. But you can also do the same thing. There's some groups maybe you're a member of where you think people like it. It would definitely help the channel a lot if we can grow and have more fans so that we can do this on a more frequent basis and go more deep into subjects. It will be really great. So thank you very much. And I enjoyed having these conversations again. There's always a surprise what topic we're going to have. And I look forward to see you in 2 weeks' time, because next week we're going to do Chomuchiku class with the people who are part of the Patreon program. So if you feel like joining there too, then just join, of course, our program, and you can join in that class. No matter what level you start, the first time I will give you a free Chomuchiku class next week. So sign up today. Take good care. Oh, it doesn't end. It doesn't want to end. The same story about the wet finger, but dry fingers doesn't work also. It's very funny.